Hey, welcome everybody. It's Greg Dean's Forum number 7. Today we'll be discussing stage fright, when fear stops you. And we've got to stop that from stopping you so that because getting out there, I know stand-up comedy is terrifying. There's no doubt about it. The question is, or the point I think of this forum is just for us to talk about it and get it out there and share the ideas we have about stage fright, what you go through, if it stops you or if it inhibits you from getting up as often as you want, if it keeps you, if you feel like it keeps you from being your real self, your authentic self on stage and having fun and playing, rather than worrying about some of the other aspects that stage fright causes. So this is a forum, so I want to hear what all of you have to say about stage fright and whether or not it stops you, or any of the maybe even the things that you do that help you push through your stage fright and your procrastination to get on stage and make people laugh. So that's what we're doing for this. So that's the first thing. So let me stop sharing here, and here we go. So welcome everybody. Let me just start first of all. So if somebody has something that you would like to say, I give the introduction about that. Did somebody want to talk about stage fright in some way?
Great. I have a question down on chat if you want me to.
Excellent.
Put that out. Nicholas is asking, is stand-up a performance, a conversation with the audience, or both?
Well, we can't get around the fact that there's a performance aspect to it. Yet, what really makes stand-up comedy a unique art form that's different than a play or a movie or a piece of music that people play and stuff is that it is more of a dialogue. It's an interaction if it's done right, because that's the reason I put out the number one principle that I push, that I like people to understand, is that stand-up comedy, the most important thing is your relationship with the audience. I go so far as to say the show itself is the relationship, or you can say the relationship is the show, well, whichever kind of hits you and makes you understand that phrase. Material for me is the activity. You can do material, you can do crowd work, audience participation, kind of some improv stuff, play, those are all the activities. To me, the show itself is a relationship. Now, what I mean by that is, because a lot of people misunderstand, they think, oh, you mean you've got to constantly be doing crowd work? No, not at all. To me, the relationship is that you care enough to be present and let the audience's information have an impact on their communication, have an impact on you, and let it change or alter or tailor the show as you go along, so that it's not a preset presentation. It's a show that gets generated in relationship with the audience. And just if we look at that on the minimum level, if you're doing it right on the minimum level, that it's a relationship, when you put a joke out there and you're present, you should be listening to that laugh and then deciding when to come back in and talk again. Oh, that's a big part of the relationship. When you push and do the next thing. Well, if they don't laugh, what do? If they laugh big, you wait longer. If it's a short laugh, you wait shorter. So that can't be predetermined at home, that kind of timing, which a lot of people do. They usually use their rehearsal as a way of deciding exactly how they're going to perform in that show. And that's kind of silly as far as I'm concerned, because that's, when people set their shows, it's really like a surfer standing on the beach, deciding right then and there how he or she is going to ride Every future wave. That's what it's like. Oh, every wave in the future, no matter how different it is, I'm going to write them exactly the same way. And that's silly when I put it that way. Yet that's what a lot of beginners, especially, and I even see some B-level and some even A-level comedians who they set their show and it goes the way that they decided from previous shows or rehearsals. So for me, it's a relationship. It's not a presentation because it's not set. It's not done a certain way. The show should be reinterpreted, reinvented, I don't know. It should be, interpreted, I guess is the best word. Interpreted for the people that are in front of you. And then it's never relevant again. The show is, but not the interpretation, the timing, the rhythm. That should be tailored and created for the people that are in front of you, and it never come up again. Because if you're present, you look at the next group of people, or you're with the next group of people, and again, you get into that feedback loop with them where their laughter, they're responsive anyway, has an impact on how you go about, doing the show, how you interpret the rhythms and the timing. There's a lot of micro stuff that goes on, these little things. So to me, that's why it's its own wild beast, is that it's not a presentation. The show is this ongoing relationship, and that's what makes it so much fun, but also so much more frightening, because every show is different. So there's really control becomes a real issue for a lot of people. There's that. So anything else, Steve, or anybody else got a hand up or a question or a comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Happy Ron, it's nice. I met your wife about 20 years ago in San Diego. She did a workshop, and I really enjoyed it. That was a long time ago. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I do kind of funny songs where I interact with the crowd a lot. I do like a call and response, and I actually performed 3,000 times. So I'm actually can perform at the drop of a hat almost any situation. Lately I've been doing a comedy show. I'm in Reno right now, and I've been wanting to add in some actual more spoken parts, like do a little bit like a comedy routine as opposed to playing a funny song. And yet I find when I do that, it's almost like I'm starting over. It's like I go from zero fear doing a song to like almost terrified, like some people in this room might be if they've never played before. So it's like literally starting over, and I hate the idea of starting over, but I guess it's what I have to do. So I just want to know if you have any thoughts on that might help me.
Now, first of all, you're right. You're starting over.
Yes.
In a sense. I mean, all of your experience will come into play to help you get there quicker, and so will your performing experience. Yet, when you add a new medium of any kind that you're doing, you've got to learn how that works. So you've got to be prepared, like if it's worth doing badly, right? Yeah. So you're not going to be as good at the verbal banter and the jokes and telling your stories in between as you are 3,000 performances into doing songs. So you have to make a deal with yourself that to make it okay to not be as good as you are at something you've already done. You got to give yourself the time to get better at it. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly, which means it's worth doing. So get through that as quickly as you can. What's going to help is for you to understand joke structure. That's a really important aspect of what I always teach, is first learn what a joke is. Knowledge goes a long ways to helping fear, because then I tell my students, I can't guarantee, if you work with me, I can't guarantee an audience will ever laugh at one of your jokes. We don't do that. What I can guarantee is what my students take on stage are jokes, because I have a definition of them. There's a structure to them. There are certain things that have to be in a joke as a specialized form of communication, so that what you're doing are jokes, whether they get a laugh. There's so many other elements to go about performing and stuff that can diminish, kill a joke, et cetera, et cetera. So uh, be kind to yourself. In other words, be generous with yourself to say, oh, okay. And I say also, don't hide this from the audience. Tell them, hey, I've decided I'm going to talk in between my songs and I'm not very good at it. So here's some of the new stuff I'm working on. And just do it between, let's say, one or two songs or something like that at first. And then as time goes on, those will pile up, or they will build up until you have something or more than enough stuff to do between each song. My belief is don't hide stuff from an audience because they can see you're uncomfortable and so the best way to get past that is just admit it, be vulnerable, be transparent.
That's awesome advice. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, be transparent, be honest, be vulnerable. It makes you vulnerable going, hey, I'm trying something new. So, and the audience will be pulling for you if you're honest about it, because they'll see, oh, this guy's really good at the funny songs and he's trying to improve his show. I watched Eddie Izzard do that. I mean, he came out and did a really good opening, and then what I call hammock. He actually said, "Oh, this is this next bit and stuff I'm working on. It's not really worked out." And I paid a lot of money for this show, but it was okay with me because he came out and said, "Hey, there's a section now I'm going to do," and then he ended the show real strong and made us laugh really hard again. But I was okay to watch that work in progress because he told us. It wasn't like, oh, he's really funny. Now he's not very good. Now he's really good again. Instead, transparency to just let everybody know, because they can see it. Okay. They know something's going on. So it's best to just explain it to them and have some fun with it. Make fun of yourself. That's the best thing to do. Just play and have fun with yourself and allow yourself to mess up and make fun of yourself when you mess up. And then they'll give you the time to start getting good at something you're not as good at. As time goes on, a year from now, I'm sure this will be a non-issue for you. You'll have plenty to say in between your different songs. And all.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Stever?
Yeah, Greg, Brock had a question for you.
Hey, Brock.
Hey, Greg. Okay, so check it out. I know like most people, I have a sense of humor that I can share with, everybody thinks I'm funny, so I can share it with the audience and everything. But then I get up on the stage and I get the stage fright. So I seize up. I get the negative stuff starts coming from everybody. I start getting real disappointed. But most of all, I lose my sense of, I don't want to call it the moment. I want to call it more of the social cues. Like, somebody's the MC might come up on stage and say, "Hey, he's really weird. Nice haircut, Hitler." Or, this guy gives, or whatever he says. But, and totally, so I don't want to make fun of myself because that's going to get worse. But, in that social moment, to know exactly the nuance, what to say to the audience, or to knock on the mic or don't knock on the MC, or, hey, great job, say something good to them, but stay funny this whole time and stuff. The stage fright really is getting me. Just stop and you're like, and try and run through mechanically your material, and it sucks.
You're right. It sucks. So you've got a couple of issues here that are going on. But you're noticing, which is nice. You're going back and kind of going, oh, there's some things that aren't the way they are when I'm funny around my friends, and it's just not working like it regularly does. A couple of things. One, you said, well, I want to know exactly what to say and what to do at a particular time. And so that becomes part of the problem. There is none of those things. See, it now comes down to a control issue, Brock. Okay. You want to know what's going to happen before it happens. You want to know off stage how the show's going to go, so you can get on stage and the show's going to go exactly that way, and everybody's going to be happy and scream and laugh, and everything's going to be good. Sorry, stand-up doesn't really work that way. It can, but as a rule, not so much, because again, as I was saying before, it's a relationship. what's in the way is that you're trying to predetermine at home how things are going to go on the stage, which only guarantees one thing, that you're not present.
Well, I'm
Which
not
is,
adapting to the stage more than I am, just the regular first level, more second level competition.
I'm not sure I understood that. Say it again.
Well, more of spontaneity in them. I've already got the written and the acting fundamental I'm solid on. But when you get up there and you're talking about being spontaneous, Greg's going to come up next and say, "Well, Brock, you really don't know what the heck you're talking about," and and everybody still laughs even though it might have known in the first place, and then I somehow stay funny. But I'm going to be, because I seized up with stage fright. Everybody knows. It just starts, nothing, you know what I mean? Nothing can say, nothing can do right. You might have cracked a couple jokes and got everything, but you know what I mean? The spontaneity of the moment and the audience taking to you versus their impressions, all of a sudden they're all like, rather than being just people who are like having a drink and having a laugh and,
So, first of all, are you saying okay, here's one of my principles. If it's running through your head, it should be coming out of your mouth. Okay. And I think that's what you're not doing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think what you're doing is editing and then going in and questioning, and your internal voice starts and the criticism starts, and that becomes overwhelming, and the freeze up and all that kind of stuff. My suggestion is, talk to them about it. Tell them, I'm freezing up. I'm thinking I'm doing this. Oh, you guys are this way, and be present and let that internal voice come out of your mouth. Start telling them. See, don't hide it. See, that's the thing that gets in the way. As soon as you start to hide anything and stand up, the audience can see it and it clogs you up. Okay. So if you start saying all those things, oh, this guy's saying this and that, and you just start talking and let yourself start to talk and saying what's really running through your mind, I think that'll open up that channel so the real Brock can start coming out. Was that helpful? Am I addressing what you're discussing?
Absolutely. It's like when they say, make sure when an audience hits you and say something for crowd work, you say immediately what your first thought is, because that's usually what's the funniest.
Well, yeah, exactly. When that's getting rid of the editor. One of the definitions, my definition of comic voice, people talk about, oh, what's your comic voice? Here's my definition of that whole thing. Just you'll see how this works into it. Everybody here, that voice that runs in the back of your head all day long, that says all that awful, horrible, mean, terrible, violent, judgmental, maybe even racist, mean, terrible stuff about people. Everybody, that's the real you. That's who you really are. Now you've constructed the social interaction persona so that you'll have friends. You'll have relationships. See, we think those things because we got a frontal lobe. We don't do those things. Okay, that's so that's what helps us discriminate between our thoughts and some real actions. Yet with stand-up comedy, we get to say those things. So for you, Brock, to start trusting that voice in the back of your head and start letting that come out, especially because every joke has a negative opinion. Every joke. Everybody, people say, I don't want to offend anybody. Don't do stand-up. Really. There's a but of every joke. There is a judgment about somebody or something that's going to offend someone. So if you don't want to offend anybody, don't do stand-up. Every joke will offend someone. Just give that up. Okay? You have to give that up. Oh, people are going to be offended, so I get to say what I want to say. And then you got to maybe deal with them crabbing at you later or complaining or something, but so what? It's none of their business. This is you and your show and having a good time. So if you're doing crowd work, first of all, there's a lot of technique behind crowd work and one of the things I do teach and work with people a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that can mess up crowd work and a lot of things that make it so much easier. That's one of the things. Yet I'm finding that you've got to allow yourself to say all that horrible stuff. You think you're going to say some horrible thing and the audience is going to hate you. Yet what I find most of the time is what you'll discover are peers. You're going to discover all these other people that agree with you. And they're the ones that are going to laugh. And that's going to be your audience. Not everybody's going to like it and agree with you. Well, grow up. You know, not everybody in life likes you. Not everybody in comedy is going to like you. Grow up. Find the people who do like it. My student, Anthony Jeselnik, there's a lot of people I know that really dislike his comedy. Personally, it makes me laugh really hard. I really like his jokes. They're real dark. And I've had discussions with him, call him up from time to time. And he's like, I'm going darker. Good. As long as it's honest and it's real and that's the way he thinks, cool. That's the way it is. There's a lot of people that don't like him. We have to grow up. So part of that, the stage fright, is giving yourself permission to just start saying what's really on your mind, because if you don't, that's what clogs up the system. And if you offend some people, if it's warranted, I've apologized. I've said some stuff to people and got, well, I didn't, I was trying to be funny and didn't mean to hit, but I'm not going to apologize for getting on stage and giving it a shot ever. Okay. So, and rarely do I apologize to people because it's a comedy show. It's a joke. So I don't know. Does that help in that answer, help you toward overcoming that at least some ideas for jumping into that fear?
Yeah, most definitely.
Trust yourself. It's okay. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up and you're going to be embarrassed. Live with it. You can't get around that in stand-up comedy because we're always pushing the envelope of some kind. And the only way to know where that edge is at is to go past it. But I find mostly with beginners that point of really offending people is way, way further out there than you think it is. It's much further out there. So unless, of course, your audience is completely millennials, and then if you say the word they go, I'm offended. So there's no winning that. It's they come from a different generation where bullying happened online and stuff, and so they're offended by everything. So there's that. So Stever, anything else?
Yeah, we have about 3 or 4 more questions here. First one, we have our friend from Turkey, Chahil, which was...
C, talk to me.
I can read it, or you want to ask him?
I'd like him to talk.
Go for it.
So, hi again, and sorry for my not native English. And I was thinking that, can you hear me?
Very much so. Yeah,
Okay.
You're great. You
Okay.
sound great. You look great.
Thank you. And I was thinking that this stand-up comedy is very much involved with overcoming your ego. Is that correct? So I'm trying to beat my ego to overcome my anxiety about going up to the stage. So can you give some advice about how we can leave our ego and who we are and go in front of the audience this way?
Hey, I'm not sure you have a definition in your head of ego, so let me kind of do my best to try to understand what you mean by that and stuff. When ego's too abstract for me. Okay, so I find most people, there's a couple of things that cause people to have that kind of fear. One is the fear of well, there's actually a term for it. It's called gelotophobia. Gelotophobia. Okay, it's the fear of being laughed at. Okay, and I've read a lot of research around that. And it's not the fear of Italian ice cream. It's a real fear of being out. So what's the fear of being laughed at? The point of being laughed at is the humiliation that comes from it. Oh, I looked bad. I'm embarrassed in front of people. I feel humiliated because I didn't live up to some standard or abstract idea in your head of how good you should be, even though you're not good at this. As a beginner, you're not going to be good at this. This is a hard art form. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning, mostly what you learn is what doesn't work. And you've got to be able to go, oh, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I'm going to do a lot of shows that don't get laughs. I'm going to do things that mess up jokes. I'm going to do some things that'll get some big laughs as well. And you've got to let yourself off the hook to kind of go, everybody, you've got to get that judgment off yourself that you have to be good at something that you're not good at. Nobody pops out of the womb doing one-liners. We learn to be funny in this lifetime. And a lot of people do it when they're children. Plus, also, I don't know if you're not working in a second language, but that's what it's about. You don't have a lot of models there as well, other comedians to go and watch and stuff. So for you, you've just got to make a decision. It's a mental decision, this ego. I've got to look this good. I've got to keep this persona of coolness or whatever. You've got to be willing to completely lose all of your dignity to be a comedian. Now, to me, it's becoming a fool, in a classic sense of a fool, not Ronald McDonald. I mean, it's the willingness to look foolish on purpose. See, one of the things I like about comedians, once you hit this level, people can't offend you. People have a hard time. They can't offend me. They say, my students say the most awful stuff about me. And my answer is, oh, gosh, you didn't go nearly far enough. I am much worse than that. So whatever way that I look bad, I'll make it worse. And they're like, well, no point in trying to embarrass or put him down or anything, because he'll make it all worse. He'll make it funnier. He'll, go, oh, that's not far enough. So anything that's bad about you and stuff and you're sensitive about, I would say start talking about it on stage. Get up there and go, I'm afraid you guys aren't going to laugh at me and I'm going to be humiliated. And what you're going to find out is the audience is kind of going, well, if I was up there, I'd be terrified about this too. This may be the big piece of information for everybody here. Stop hiding it. Talk about it. I know there's teachers out there. Never let them see you sweat. Never let them see you make a mistake. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. Okay. I think the audience likes that vulnerability where you come out and say, hey, I'm terrified. Where I learned that, Richard Pryor. After he was burnt and stuff, he came out to do a concert and he goes, I'm scared. I'm really scared. I've never been so scared. I'm afraid you're not going to laugh. You're not going to like me anymore. I've changed so much. And he started talking about what Richard Pryor can do it. Can't you? You see, because now it's not like you're holding on to it. It becomes the fodder for stand-up comedy. Make fun of yourself. I'm scared. Okay, I actually had to wear a diaper tonight. Etc. So now you're not holding on to this dignity that just doesn't help. The dignity is the problem. I think you mean by ego. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be humiliated. I always want to look good. I got to look cool and look good all the time. Okay, I've got an image. That's what's in the way. As soon as you're willing to look bad, then what does it matter? You play with looking bad. Have fun with looking bad. Make jokes about looking bad and not doing it well and having fun. And that gives you license to get better. So is that pretty much on track? Does that help with the
Yes, it was very helpful, and thank you for answering me.
You're welcome. How we doing, Stever?
Pretty good. Leah has a question.
Yeah. How are ya?
I'm doing good. I'm
Good,
good. Well, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of both of these last two questions. Is it's not so much even like a fear of humiliation. And I think you even got to kind of witness this in me a little bit too. It's almost like a fear of being seen, period, you know? And there's so much cognitive dissonance with it because like I've shared my background with you, like from being in like physical performance, I used to be in arenas for tens of thousands of people and be like the idea of being in this small room, so intimate. And it's not, it is, there is an element of physicality to it. But this is just so much more personal. And I don't know, my amygdala just goes into overdrive and I hit that fight or flight and like, you saw it, I just froze and there was no coming out of it for me. So like,
So for you, and I've watched.
I get there's a lot involved in that. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, but
I've watched you go into that.
yeah.
Okay, so what for you?
And like it's aggravating because I like what I have to put out there too, and I feel confident that like my stuff is workable and I can do it. It's so aggravating and like I know what if I get in that character and I get in that flow and I can do that, it can be good. And I'm just it's so internal for me. Like
okay, so first, you have a vicious critic.
I come from gymnastics. Of course, I'm like gonna be like my worst critic. Every little thing feels like so much bigger than I know it is. It's
okay.
There's a lot that I got to fight with this.
Okay, so let me give you some ideas here. All right, so you have a vicious critic. Your critic is bigger than your confidence, essentially, at this point, at least in this area. That you're not confident in the stand-up comedy part, the physical, the gymnastics, the physical comedy. You're very comfortable with all that. So your internal dialogue, your internal, self-talk leaves you alone in those things. Okay. So there could be a couple of things. One is, as we were talking before, you have to give yourself permission to be bad. I've watched you. Oh, I can't do this perfectly. And if I can't do it perfectly, let me talk. If I can't do it perfectly, then there's a part of me that's going to stop it altogether. So you don't have a chance to get better because you have to be able to do it badly. You just have to. Anything new you learn, you're going to do badly for a while. You're going to be bad at it for a while. Okay. It's just the nature of the beast. And you have to give yourself permission. I do a lot of writing. So I've had to learn this over time. I sit down, my computer here, and I've got, I got to write a blog or something. And I sit there and I stare at the screen for a while. And then pretty soon I remember, oh gosh, Greg, that's right. The first draft of what you're going to put up on the screen is just going to be trash. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be the worst thing you've ever written in your entire life. Oh, yeah, that's right. It is. Then I just start writing. And it is. It's horrible. Just a bunch of random ideas about an idea, and half of them aren't even relevant. And the sentence structure is terrible, and and nothing's clear, and it's just this big blob of ideas. Oh, well, and then I give, okay, now that I got it there, now I go over it line by line, idea by idea, find an organizing principle until I can, and then pretty soon, after I rewrite it 50 times, it's a good blog. Then I have the computer read it back to me, and then I send it to my friends, and they correct it. And then I put it through Grammarly and it correct, and then I read it again. Does it make over and over? So I got to remember, 99% of what I did up to the point where I actually publish it is bad. Okay. So
gotta just accept it.
the difference is you're putting that out there in public. You're going to be bad publicly. And again, it does come back to I don't want to look bad. I've looked really great in the past. So I have to be as good as I have been in the past, or I'm going to stop myself. Well, that's just unrealistic. I mean, it's not going to work. Doesn't work that way. Confidence is earned. Competence is earned. You know, these things are earned through getting through being bad at something. And that's a decision you have to make between you and your critic. Right now, your critic basically is going, oh, I'm not going to ever let you look bad. So the consequences of that is you don't grow, you don't learn, you don't push yourself forward, because the critic always wins. Oh, you're looking worse than you did in the past. So we're not going to let you do that. Well, you got to decide to go, okay, you got to get out of here. It's going to come in, it's just, and you have to make a deal with it. You stay over there while I'm being bad. And that's one of the great things about taking a stand-up comedy class. And I know you even struggled in there.
Even in that, I was like, this is too bad for me.
I set up a safe environment for people to go ahead and be bad and say, I know you're going to be bad. It's okay to be bad. Yet you still did not allow yourself to be bad there. Okay. So this is a decision. There's a part of you that you have to negotiate with, because that part of you, and this is one of the things, this is kind of an odd thing to talk about. I find a lot of things that restrict people from getting where they want to go, their fear, a lot of other things. Those are decisions that we make when we're very young and they're still with you. In other words, you may be living a decision you made when you were 7, because you got in trouble or something when you looked, or a coach jumped on you when you didn't look perfect. And at some point, maybe you're 13, 40, made a decision. Well, if I can't look great, then I'm not going to do it. That's a decision of a child. Okay. Children, when we're younger, we don't have a lot of choices. Most of us have an off-on switch. Right?
So bad.
If I don't look good, I'm going to turn off that switch. Okay. I've turned off that switch, and that switch, and then that switch, and then that switch. Pretty soon, all these child decisions, you're living this very narrow life. Well, you're an adult. You're a grown-up. You got a lot of resources. You're intelligent. Okay. There's a lot of other people to talk to, books to read, therapists to see, things to talk about with yourself, to start undoing those switches so that your life opens up and you can go, okay, I'm scared. But so what? I can handle this. You can handle it. I've seen you. When you get past that critic winning, you're very
frustrating part. That's the most frustrating part, is I know it's there.
I understand it's very frustrating. So and you have to understand it's just you making a decision. I understand it feels like it's an insurmountable thing. It's what the Zen Buddhists call a gateless gate. You have a gate. It doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's a lie you tell yourself to keep yourself safe. Well, if you're going to learn something new, you're not going to be safe, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes, especially if you want to do stand-up, because it's a really hard art form to master. Even the comedians I know, they always say, at about year 10, I really felt like I knew what I was doing. That's a lot, but you've got to open up that gate and step through it. And it's a choice, because there's nothing really there except lies you tell yourself and the fantasies. You live in this wreckage of your fantasy. Okay, you create a fantasy of how terrible it's going to be, and you live inside that wreckage. That's all a lie. That's just a lie. That's just a fear lie. It's a fear lie, and you tell it to yourself because, I'll believe that, and then I'll stay safe. Okay, so if you want to stay safe, continue that, or decide that life, especially creativity and the arts of any kind, is not safe. And there's a lot of loss of control. To me, another one of my principles is you can have control or you can have creativity, which is not, it kind of comes out of nowhere and surprises you. You get control or you get creativity. You don't get both. I say choose creativity, but you've got to risk not looking good, learning stuff new, being surprised, genius coming out of nowhere, and which can scare you just as much as anything else, because you're going, oh my God, I'm this good and I have to look this good again in the future. Oh, so there's decisions to remake those decisions of a younger you, and decide that it's okay to look bad. It's okay to learn something new. It's okay to be bad. You're not going to be as good as you are at something that you spent. I mean, how many years did you spend getting good at gymnastics?
I was born into it. Both my parents were.
My point, exactly. You're not born into this.
Okay? Like the bane of gymnastics.
You're never going to be, or it's going to take a while for you to be as good at that at stand-up or
a real big one. Like you're like 100% spot on. Like, thank you. That's so exactly.
That's a decision. It doesn't exist as a real thing in the world. It's in the lies that you tell yourself, all of you, to keep you safe. But that part of you that's keeping you safe doesn't realize it's destroying another part of that part that wants to keep you safe, is destroying the other part, or not allowing it to grow, which is the creative part, the part that wants control, or the part that wants to be free, have fun, and live your dreams. And that's the whole thing. It's a decision. It's not true. It's a self-lie. There's that. So, Stever, got something?
Yeah, Janet has a question.
Janet.
Okay. So I've been doing pretty good with fear, and for me, it's just doing it. Doing it. I mean, I've had some little tools, like when my mouth would go dry before I went on, I use that mouth stuff. I don't have to do that anymore. Sometimes it's having water on stage, but then I'm always like, do I take time to unscrew anyhow? But what's going on for me is I have a show on Thursday and I am a nervous wreck. And I think what I might be doing is comparing myself, because these comedians that I'm performing with they have, big Instagram followers. They do comedy all over LA. And I'm kind of the newbie. But what's surprising me is that I'm so nervous now, because normally this is what's been happening for me. Normally, now that I've done a little bit of getting up there at showcases and stuff, I usually have this pattern of getting nervous the day before, have a little bit of nerves prior to going up, but once I start, I'm fine. But this thing about I could cry. I'm so upset that I'm having these nerves days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about that. Once you get on stage, for most people, the nerves just go away. Okay, so know that that's for everybody doesn't know that. When you get up there, usually your nerves go away. So it's the pre-show jitters, and it sounds like yours are going a long time. So you're comparing yourself to these other people that have been at it longer and are better at it than you.
Mm-hmm.
Wait
a minute. I don't know if they're better because I haven't seen all of them. And sometimes
the point is your mind is thinking,
is telling me that. Yeah.
You're living in the wreckage of the future. You're creating a lie. Again, same thing. You're creating a lie for yourself. You're saying, I don't even know who these people are. you created a lie inside your head, and you're living as if that's true, and you're responding to it as if it's true. Okay. And that's terrifying the hell out of you. And I understand we fantasize about these things, et cetera, et cetera. And you need to start first of all, start calling yourself on the lie. I mean, I do Buddhist sitting. If you guys don't know, it's not a religion. I'm not pushing a religion. It's the study of a way of being, which is training yourself to be present. So you don't tell yourself, and recognizing most of what you tell yourself is a lie. Okay, because you want to deal with reality, not with the lies you tell yourself. So you sit and practice and remind yourself to be present and deal with reality, not the fantasies that we create.
Are you using breath to do that, to be present?
Absolutely. Yeah. The nose, breath at the nose is when I go places, I start breathing and feeling the breath in my nose and remind myself to be present, et cetera, and deal with what's in front of me, rather than the BS that I create inside my head, which just makes me afraid or hurt or angry, et cetera. There's enough things in the real world to do that. Okay, without us piling those onto ourselves when they're lies. So you've created it sounds, I mean, I'm not saying it sounds as if what you've done, you've got this thing going, I don't live up to these, and it's a lie. Maybe they're all better than you, but that doesn't help. So that what will help is to be present and to accept the fact that, so what? So what? They're better than you. They've been at it for a while longer, or they come in with some talent that they have, that was with them, some skills they had growing up, like I did, around a lot of really, really funny drunks. That's my family. Okay. So I came with some skills of being funny. The idea is, so what? You're where you are. And that's not going to, again, that's the reality. That's not going to change. That's a fact. You are where you are. Okay. You're going there to get better. Focus on that. I'm going there to get a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm going to study these people that are better than me, and then I'm going to recognize the ones that I'm doing some things better than they are, et cetera, et cetera. Great. And then you leave. The idea here is that the reality of where you are, there's always going to be somebody better than you, and there's always going to be somebody worse than you, and it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, and they've worked harder than I have, so they deserve to be where they are. I mean, okay, that's helping.
Yeah, and what you have to do is be present and stop believing the lies you're telling yourself that are fantasies and reacting to them like they're real, and catch yourself. Stop it. That's what I do. I go back to my breath, because I catch myself. Okay, boy, there was a lie. I just upset myself with that. Okay, so what am I doing in present? Okay, let's deal with what I'll get back to writing, get back to talking, get back to working on something, whatever I'm doing. Get back to that. Get back to what's real.
Do you say to yourself,
it's the power of being present is what it is.
Do you say, this will be my lie, do you say to yourself when you catch the lie, lie?
Yes.
Do you label it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh boy, that was just a whole bunch of BS I just imagined in my head. Go, let's, swipe right. Swipe all the way behind me. Put it in the past. Okay, because it's most of it, once you start to really look at it, very little of it is actually true. Most of it is just a fantasy and a lie. And it's really the part of you trying, it has a positive intent. The positive intent is to keep you healthy and to keep you happy and keep you safe. Okay. The problem with it is it doesn't realize, again, it wants to control. It thinks that's the way to do it. Where for me, my happiness comes from losing the control and discovering something I never did before. losing the control. It comes out of nowhere. I just come up with an idea that came from, but I've gotten used to it over time instead of letting this part, scare you with its lies, so you don't jump over here and have the beautiful experience of being present and discovering something you've never done before. And that can only happen in the act of creativity and letting it's, you're not out of control. You're just letting go of the control. It's going through that gateless gate.
I also am really proud of myself doing this. I mean, truly.
I agree. The fact that every time you get up on stage, you've done something magnificent for yourself. And you get better at whatever you practice. Everybody, you just get better at whatever you practice. If you practice letting fear win, you just get really good at that.
Okay.
If you practice not letting fear win, you get better at that. I know, I'm an example. I come from a very fearful state of alcoholics and criticism. Oh my God, the years that I had to go, constantly. And it helped when I realized what I'm putting together in my head. Most of the stories, there's lies. There's the lies trying to keep me safe and keep me from taking risks. So I've got to recognize them for what they are so that I can be and do what I want to fulfill my dreams and allow myself to go places that aren't safe psychologically. So, Stever, what we doing?
One more question, I think, from Auntie O. Oh, she's there. Did she leave? Oh, there she is.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Auntie Oля from Mother Russia. So I perform here in Russian and sometimes abroad and here in English. And I would like, first of all, to thank you for this forum, Greg, and also additionally to thank you for Anthony Jeselnik, because he's my favorite, and I want to be Russian female Jeselnik. That's my goal. And as for question, you mentioned alcoholics, and Janet before mentioned that she needs some water on stage. And what about bringing some alcohol on stage, like Jim Jeffries, to struggle whatever we're discussing tonight? Because I sometimes use it even as a prop and help myself at the end.
Well,
what do you think?
Let me just let's start from where you get work. So you're a club owner, okay? And you don't know this comedian very well, and you're going to give them a shot. And they drink. Are you going to want them on your stage?
Not unless you're on way.
There's your biggest question right there is do you want, and to me, it's not whether you should or shouldn't. I'm not into, I don't censor very little. I mean, if at all. So the idea is, first of all, if you want to take booze on stage with you, tell the club owner it's just a prop, so that they know that it's part of a gag. And I mean, if you don't know Foster Brooks, he was in a lot of the Dean Martin roasts. Big guy with gray hair, and it was very fun. And he played a drunk all the time, and he was a teetotaler in life. He never drank, but his character was a drunk. And a great drunk he was. He looked like a drunk all the time. And there's a lot of famous drunk comedians, especially back in vaudeville and stuff. So it can be very, very funny in itself. Yet, and I don't mean to pontificate too much on my personal, but for me, alcohol and drugs, both of them, the first thing that they affect, first of all, they make you numb. So you're not feeling the stage fright as much. Got it. I get it. Now, that's the upside. The downside is that it making you numb, the first thing that it affects is your judgment. That's what it does. That's been, there's been a lot of research done on that I've read on this. And this isn't me just spouting this off. It affects your judgment. Okay. For me, being funny, if it's a relationship with the audience where you're kind of constantly always slightly adjusting your show, what you're doing, the rhythms, the patterns, how you emphasize things, and you're tailoring the show to the rhythms of the audience that's in front of you, to me, that's all judgment. So if what you're doing before you go on stage is getting high or getting drunk or drinking is affecting your judgment, I say you're going on stage suboptimal. You're not at your best. I don't let people drink and smoke and do drugs before my showcases in my classes. Now, once they stop performing, they could pull out a bottle of whiskey and down it. I don't care. That's your life. As a producer of a show at a major club, the Hollywood Improv, I don't want my students on stage, and some of them have done it, and drinking when I can't see them, and then they don't seem high or whatever, and then they get on stage and they think they're being funny and they're just obnoxious. And they're unresponsive and they don't want to get off stage and they're belligerent. What can I do as a teacher? Really, as a teacher? They come back and say, I want to take your class again. And I go, no. I'm not going to punish them. They're adults. They can do whatever they want to. The punishment is I won't work with them again. Period. End of story. Unless they come back and say, hey, I've been through AA and I'm really cleaning up my life. I've come to do the step where I'm apologizing to you and making amends. Then I'll give them another chance. And I've had people do that, and I give them another chance because they're in earnest. So again, you're an adult. You do what you want to do. I mean, it's famous. I like Ron White and Stan. I like these people. Okay. The question is, does it help their comedy, or is it just something they like to do, they enjoy? It's a choice. It's a choice you can make. So they have careers. Okay. You don't. So I'm saying, kind of discuss it with yourself and go, it's harder to get gigs when the club owner knows you're going on stage and drinking on stage. It cracks me up when people do their videos that they send out to all the club owners and they're drinking a beer through their whole show. I just know those club owners are going, next. Because I've discussed it with them. I've discussed so many things with club owners and bookers and managers because I teach. And I go to them and say, hey, what is it you like? What is it you don't like? What are the problems, et cetera, et cetera? The number one they say is, don't drink on my stage. Okay, if you're famous, you drink on my stage. If you bring in, you can pack the house with, hundreds of people. You can drink on my stage because you already have a career. If you're a MC, an opener, a feature, probably not. Unless you're attached to that headliner that they're bringing in, because they make everybody a lot of money. So just look at it as the beginning of your career. It's hard enough to do stand-up. You don't want to consciously make a choice of something that's going to get in the way of you getting work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, Steve? Because we're after 1.
Just a few people asking to make comments. But
let them.
Yeah. Make comments.
Sure. Who is it that wants to?
Hercules.
Hercules.
You're on mute.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm a student of Professor Greg Dean. I'm a thug from the streets of Los Angeles. I came to his class and I was shy about not me doing stand-up, but my background and my lifestyle growing up. And he said, embrace it. And I've done 4 bringer shows with a comic this year. And I won't say his name, but he told me how to dress one night. He called me on the phone and taught me how to dress. I get to the comedy club and I'm dressed better than he is. And he's been doing it 12 years. I was funnier than he was. And I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. The owner of the club, I will say the name of the club, Comedy Chateau. The guy invited me back because he liked my stand-up. Now I took my my videos home and showed my family, and I was so proud of me doing it because I've been talking about it for years. And like I said, inspired and encouraged by Professor Coach Greg Dean. And my family said they like my show, but the thing about it is I use too much profanity. I'm not to the point where I'm telling jokes, but I'm telling stories. But my family said that I was using too much profanity. According to them, none of them are comedians. So, but they're trying to direct my show and what to say. And another thing, growing up, I always been a class clown, but I didn't like school because there was no point for comedians there at the time. So, Greg Dean, anything on that?
Well, you're doing the right thing, Herc. You know, the idea is to get out there and do it and trust yourself. The cussing at the level you are now and bringer shows and stuff is not going to be a problem. The question is kind of like the alcohol. You know, if you're a club owner, of course, in culture, it's acceptable. Okay. If you start going to the quote unquote white clubs and stuff, you might want to pull that back a little bit and be a little bit more in charge of it. Because it's not quite as assaulting and it's not as acceptable. But other than that, you know, you're doing good. You're a funny guy. You've got a weird criminal life behind you. You're talking about things that most people have never been through and don't know anything about. That's the fun of your show, is to go into your world with you. That none of it we never would, you know, we didn't go through. And so you have that world. Keep talking about that, because to me, that's fascinating. And if part of that is cussing, for me, as long as it's part of the world and the way you're dealing with stuff, then it's an honest thing.
Yes.
If you're gratuitously cussing just to cuss,
no. It was a part of that.
Right.
It was a part of the storytelling, which was real life, and it wasn't even an act. It wasn't even made up. You know, it was real incidents that really occurred in my life, or things that I've been through.
And I've heard those, and you're right. I never had a problem with the language in your show. So again, put it in the proper context. If it's some places you might need to ease it up a little bit, or maybe not. It's your show. You do it your way. You find your audience, is what it's all about. It's finding your own audience. There's going to be people who like you and people who don't like you. So good for you. Keep doing what you're doing and keep it out there, because every time you get up, you get better at what you're doing. And it sounds like you're right on track. Stever, who's next? Who wanted to make a comment?
Professor. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome, Herc.
I got nothing.
You got nothing. Okay, so let me go over a couple of things here real quick that I always share at the end of these real quickly, which is because I had a whole bunch of things, but you guys had so much to talk about. So before I bring that up, actually, so I want to say to everybody, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate you all being here, etc. So thank you for joining into Forum 7 and talking about your fears and being honest about them. Next is this is just a couple of things for you, that because a lot of people don't know all the things that I offer. So you can find more information at stand-upcomedy.com. That's my website. It's got everything on it. There's a free ebook about the top 10 stand-up comedy secrets. It's free. I got free blogs on there that you can read. I now have a free glossary, by the way, as well, if you want to know the terms. Subscribe to Greg Dean Comedy. All of my social networking is Greg Dean Comedy. If you ever want to find me, just type in Greg Dean Comedy. But get those free videos. A lot of people are talking about them, and I try to put a technique of some kind of helpful hint in every single one of them. So that's what I'm always doing. With that. Next is my level 1 class, stand-up comedy classes. That's where you learn joke structure, joke writing, storytelling, rehearsal, performing techniques. It'll get you there much faster. I say you learn in 5 weeks what would normally take you 5 years. Pretty good deal. It's in Santa Monica live on Zoom with my wife, Gayla. And if you want to know what it's about, there's if you go on the website, sign up for the free webinar. You can watch about an hour-long video on all the things that I teach there, etc. On-demand classes that are on Teachable. Joke Writing Made Simple. That's a great class on joke writing and the joke prospector writing system. How to be an MC. MC will fast-track your career. Because if you've been out there, you're going to realize most of the MCs are really horrible. And if you're one of the really good ones, everybody's going to want you in their room. And I always say, trade it out for some stage time. Don't just do it to do it. Do it for the stage time that you get. And the last thing is how to get work, 10 steps to being a working comedian. This lays out the whole path for you from where you are now to where you want to get to. And on top of that, there are so many things in this that you should be doing now in your career. You should start them early. All this about web presence and social media, that takes years to develop, and many of those things to develop a career you should be working on now. So I just want to say to everyone, thank you. Thank you for coming in from Turkey and from Russia and from every place else you've come in to talk with me and share with me your feelings and your fears and your thoughts and how you're progressing. And I hope to talk with you again in the near future with our next forum and all. And I will see you then. Thanks very much. And remember, laughter is contagious. Pass it on.